All right, all right. It's gonna be one of those nights with the videos. We're having storms here. Not that my internet's that great anyway, but just saying. I know it's late, and I actually was going to do this earlier today, but I got sidetracked. But I wanted to do it today because tomorrow I got other things I got to do. I'll be on Killer Carl's podcast tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Join us. But I just wanted to touch on a few things, and I've decided I'm going to start every time I do a live stream. I'm going to do a Springfield, Ohio Haitian influx problem update. Things that happened is just the traffic accidents, uh, crimes, cover ups, whatever that's going on that the day here in our little town. So I'll touch on that before I get off here tonight. But I just wanted to say, how many of you guys think that James Comey, who is a highly intelligent individual, who is now playing dumb, that when he took that picture of 8647, that he didn't know what it meant? He's just, when you spend all your time trying to prove to everybody how smart you are, and then you go and do this idiotic story that you didn't know what it meant. How many of y'all think he'll actually get any punishment out of that? I mean, they are investigating it. I don't think anything will come of it, to be honest with you. But this investigation being opened up might give them an excuse to look at other things, because when you investigate somebody for a crime, you investigate their whole life that may surround the purpose and the what brought you to that crime, and whether you actually did or didn't do it. So, saying that, I'm not a big legal scholar, but I'm thinking it opens the door up to give them basically permission to start dissecting James Comey's um, performance, his conduct, whatever you want to call it, his last year in office. And and for years you didn't know that which. I mean, at least I didn't. Which side of the fence he leaned on. But as we all know, President Trump broke their brains. So for those who were trying to hide how liberal they was, progressive, whatever you want to call it, when Trump was elected, uh, they couldn't hide it anymore. They had to express their feelings about how bad the Orange Man is. Express their feelings. So I'm hoping he'll get. Sorry, I knocked my table. I'm hoping he'll get something, not necessarily out of this deal. Although if this was one of us doing it, the FBI would be knocking on our door. Especially if like Biden was still in office and something like that was done. 8646. Kind of flows off the tongue, doesn't it? But see, we don't wish those kind of things upon people like they do. They're despicable people. They really have no real grounded morals of any kind. It's all about being in power and controlling the masses and putting money in their pockets. That's what it's all about. Yeah, Raymond, he did know. That's right. He did know. And I apologize if anybody on YouTube is chatting. I can't see it. I have my Rumble on my phone, and I see I'm getting a chat on my phone, but I'm not seeing it on my computer. So I apologize. I always, because I love reading the chats and interacting with you guys. But saying that, I know there's not a whole lot of people in here, but somebody will wake up tomorrow and press play on the recording of this. Of course, I'll have to go in and edit the crap out of it on the YouTube side. But I just feel like I need to put certain things out there on YouTube. So we have that, and then hopefully, and I got a video of this next story. Uh, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino did an interview on Fox, I think it was, and they kind of let the cat out of the bag on a couple things, but also, and not necessarily in that interview, but Dan Bongino has removed all the FBI agents that were assigned to investigating those pipe bombs. The one that was outside the DNC the day that Kamala Harris was there, and the one that was found in the Capitol building, and they were of similar construction, which means it was done by the same person or persons. So uh, that's a good thing because let's be honest. If they've got people assigned to that since January 6th of 2021, um, they know. They know, or they should have already closed the case and they have no, it'd be a cold case. You know what I mean? As so much time has passed, but they know. And I think Dan Bongino knows they know. Kind of like the Epstein deal, how the Southern District of New York's FBI field agent or department uh, was hiding evidence of the Epstein file stuff. So, and then they were basically raided and all that stuff removed. Sorry, I'm moving my butt around here. So that's a good thing. Although I like to see more stuff come out of the Epstein. And James O'Keefe is slow rolling his story on this stuff. He's got video and photographs of the inside of the mansion, and I'm sure he's got them of the temple on Pedophile Island. And it's, I think he's slow rolling too many small clippets. It should be a bigger story wrapped up into one. I ain't saying he should have done it all in one part, but he's milking this for whatever it's worth, every bit of it. And so far, it's not really nothing that was I've seen that'll put his life in danger, because he said he went underground to protect himself because of the story was so damning to the politicians in Washington D.C. that he had to make sure that we all knew that he was not suicidal. But you know, it is what it is on that. So I'm gonna try to play this video of Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, because what it is you know, Kash is he said it a long time ago in a podcast uh, that he was going to dismantle the FBI office in Washington D.C. But he's going one step further. He's not only dismantling the agents and the departments there, but tearing down the building, because I guess the building is in such poor shape that it's not worth repairing, because it's just big, massive chunks of steel and concrete. It's an ugly building. It looks like they built it to withstand a atom bomb or something, but it's falling apart. So, you know, he said he was going to do that. Plus, he's moving agents. There's 11,000 FBI agents in D.C. alone. Why? 11,000? That's crazy. So he's moving. And I think yeah, it's 11,000. So he's moving them to other offices around the country. So let's see if I can play this video real quick. But also, I'll go one step further. In this video, it's actually going to start out with talking about uh, the Democrat leadership who knew about Biden's mental capacity and what they're calling for the resignation, because they knew it. We all know they knew it, but now I guess there's evidence that they talked about it and even joked about it while he was still in office about his mental capacity. So, see if I can find that real quick. Hopefully this will play right, guys.
He's now still trying to push forward as Democrats continue to be confronted about former President Biden's mental decline with a steady drip of new revelations on his condition coming to light. I want to bring in former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy on this. And Kevin, good day to you. You noted it. I remember hearing it from you back in the day. Chris Murphy, Democratic senator, says there's no doubt. He says there's no doubt about it. The debate is whether that it was enough that it compromised his ability to act as chief executive. Now, there's a bunch of books out there right now. Maybe there's more coming off the top of my head. I can't think of one, but perhaps that happens. At which point do Democrats finally shake this? Because it's just a cloud that's moving over them every day.
They're trying to ignore it. They're trying to say, oh, we're just looking forward. But I think the leaders that covered this up should have to resign. So that means Schumer and Hakeem should actually resign because they saw the same thing I did. And when I came forward with what was going on, they all attacked me. They tried to even do the cover-up. Instead of just not saying anything, they attacked those who tried to tell the truth. And they allowed the country to be in this position.
What up, Dave?
That's not a place for a leader to be. When you can see what was going on in the White House, and Dana, you know this better than anything, that White House is a place that is humming. Under Biden, nothing. It is so quiet. And then when you had meetings with him, you had a different meeting every time. But there's times his mind was not there. That he led me into the swimming pool one time. Mm-hmm. Another time he was dazed that he saw his wife Jill. And why did Jill have to be in so many meetings?
Unlike others, you were honest about what was happening. You told people what you saw. No, so yesterday, we don't have this sound, but Jake Sullivan, who's a national security advisor, he's being interviewed yesterday, asked if he ever noticed anything. And it's reported in the book that a couple of times the president looked at him, called Jake Sullivan Steve, and he said, nope, never saw anything. I mean, but you imagine that they wanted, the Democrats were calling for the 25th Amendment against President Trump in his first term. And none of these people thought this was a concern, that the president of the United States and his national security advisor didn't have clear lines of communication?
No. But the worst part is, privately together, they acknowledged his problems. They made jokes about it. They said he was our zombie. This is the highest leaders in the cabinet would say this about this president, because they would talk about him not recognizing him, calling him by a different name, and then go out and attack those who ever brought it forward. That, to me, is the biggest crime of all, to allow this to go forward, to put America in this jeopardy. And then you wonder why we had such terrible foreign policy. Why were new wars created? Why did...
You know what about that right there? Just like this idiot congressman out of Michigan tried to do articles of impeachment against Trump. He put himself on the record of, even though it was stupid, it was idiotic. Why didn't the Republicans, even though it would not have went nowhere because they was not the majority, but it would let everybody know where they stood publicly. and file Article 25 on President Biden with evidence like this conversation he's having here in this interview, with all this information, with all these people who had direct knowledge of this, but yet did nothing either. The Republicans did nothing. They talked about it, but they did nothing about it. They talked about suspected, not that, and it was like what Mike Johnson waited till President Trump was elected and then talked about the meetings that he had with Biden that was off the rails because of his mental capacity. Anyways, I'll keep going.
Did we look weaker on the world stage? Why did we lose? Well, they're at fault because they covered up. And this is a country that if somebody falls behind, somebody else is elected to step into that. They should not have been silent. And that they were leaders and they were silent, they should step away from their jobs.
New York Times did a focus group of Democrats. These are voters now, okay? Here's 4 quotes. Ariel's age 23.
All right. Well, it's buffering like crazy, so we'll just stop that one there. But right there, it tells you. Why didn't the Republicans talked about it? I mean, we all knew it publicly, but they did always that. Well, we suspect, but yet they sitting there freely speaking it now, as if they always knew it for sure. But they let the American public have forceful debates. Democrats arguing that he's okay, and Republicans or MAGA saying you're an idiot if you can't see it. So they literally allowed conflict amongst the people when they could have cleared it up. Worst case scenario, what would have happened? Kamala Harris would have been temporarily president. I guarantee she would not have changed anything. All the policies that were going on were going to stay the same. But at least somebody would have been awake at the wheel instead of being asleep and falling down and talking to the wrong people and having memory lapses like crazy, which made us look like idiots in the world stage because they allowed him to go overseas to these conferences and meetings in that condition and embarrassed us. They all should be ashamed of themselves, Republicans and Democrats, calling for the resignation of Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. Well, it sounds to me like Mike Johnson should have the same punishment because he did not come out and try to file articles of 25 to remove him because he was not capable of doing his job. Like I said, it probably wouldn't have went nowhere, but at least you'd have known on record where everybody stood in their position on it. That way, when something like what's happening right now, you got all these damn people like the CNN people writing books about how they were fooled about his mental capacity. Fooled my ass. They knew it. It's the biggest. It's kind of like all these, like the Weinstein, Stein, however you say his name, out in California, where like it was a open secret about him doing all these sexual things for these actresses and stuff to get ahead in their jobs. And it's an open secret. Everybody knew about it. It's like the P. Diddy white parties. When you hear somebody talk about it, they talk openly about it. But it was a open secret. Like everybody knew it, but nobody did nothing about it. To me, when you allow something like that to continue, and so far, good or bad, I know I'm jumping around here, but the P. Diddy, I've just now started digging into that because I really don't care about the P. Diddy. I do care about if there was victims and if there was people that did things, wrongdoings at these parties that should be held accountable. So far, what I've seen is morally imprehensible, uh, but doesn't rise to the level of a criminal act as far as what they're trying to get him on so far. I'm just saying so far. I mean, they hired escorts. I mean, you could get him on domestic violence with his girlfriend. I mean, they did gross, disgusting stuff. Uh, like where, and I don't want to get too gross, but I don't know if you've seen this part where he had these paid escorts, male escorts, urinate in her mouth, and where she was choking on it because it was filling her mouth up, and he made her continue doing it. You know, that's kind of that is just as gross as you can get, but it's not against the law because there's too much information. And even though, you know, I do get the battered uh, syndrome where, you know, you inferior your life. So they got to be able to prove that she was forced to do it and was forced to say she liked it out of fear of her personal safety. Now, once they can prove that in a court of law, then he'll be held accountable for something. But it's kind of up and down right now. As gross as it is what it is. Yeah, Minnesota. Kevin McCarthy that's what I'm saying. He's talking about it openly right there in that interview. He knew it. His personal interactions with the president. When you have that kind of interaction, and not necessarily once, but multiple times with the president over the last few years, and you don't go back to your office and start writing up uh, Article 25 and why you believe that he needs to be removed from office, you're just as guilty as the Democrats because you chose to do nothing. You talked about it, but you talked about it being suspected. They feel like just by, and you know, and they go by, well, you seen on camera what we seen on camera. But these people were behind closed doors in meetings with him. They seen more than what we seen, much more. So, you know, but getting on back to the FBI, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, FBI building being tore down, the agents being dispersed out amongst other offices around the country, telling them they need to go back to doing their jobs. You don't need 11,000 agents in the DC area. So I had a video, and my videos are buffering so bad it almost ain't worth playing. But you guys can find it. I believe I know Benny Johnson did the original interview with Kash Patel talking about what he was going to do to the FBI. And then I believe it's Fox News, the interview with him and Dan Bongino both, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, talking about tearing down the building and dispersing the agents around the country. And then, of course, obviously, Dan Bongino removed all the agents from the J6 pipe bomb investigation. So we'll see what happens. Because, you know, you don't see Dan Bongino out in the press like you do Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, you know, or even the Border Barbie. I mean, they like run towards the cameras, kind of like what the Democrats did. You know, Tom Homan. Tom Homan, I see why he's in the news a lot because he's got to defend their actions because there's so much fake news out there about what they're doing, and you know they don't need him on the ground helping arrest these people and help get them deported. He's like the guy in charge, so he is the voice, the face of this ICE operation. So I have no problem with Tom Homan being in the interviews. But Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, Border Barbie, they all need to just do their jobs, stay away from the cameras. Let me see what I got here next. Like I said, it's not going to be a long one. I've got. So the last thing I'll talk about before I get off here, it's just an update. I said I'm going to start updating every live stream as much as possible if something new happens in my town with the Haitian deal. Last live stream, I talked about we've discovered the one of the uh, stash houses or one of the operation houses where they do their drug dealing and their prostitution ring and their stash of guns. So we knew at least there was suspected of two houses, one on the west end somewhere and one on the south end. Well, the one that got outed this week is the one on the south end. It's in my last live stream. If you want to go back and watch that, I've got the pictures of the house. I did not give any addresses or anything like that out of keeping idiot people from wanting to come into town and, you know, put the neighbors at risk that live around that bunkhouse, basically. So, anyways, so tonight, I said that, and also in the last live stream that Pam Bondi is found uh, another avenue or whatever, a way to stream money to these corrupt mayors of these towns for taking in these Haitians. And our mayor is as corrupt as they all are because he has properties, he has bunkhouses. He's been a Haitian supporter since day one, and now Pam Bondi is investigating him because of the money that she's found being funneled to these mayors, and our mayor is one of them. Guarantee it. And then we have a Facebook page here in town, and every time somebody comes up on an accident, and they're very vigilant about making sure that it's like before they make comments about it, that it is Haitians driving, not a regular citizen that caused the accident. But this is a daily thing. And I'm going to start showing like court records because I've said it time and time again. I have an actual video on YouTube that shows exactly how these people go to court and never get held accountable for what they do. So they'll never have a misdemeanor or a felony on the record. So they'll never be placed for deportation. Because if you have two misdemeanors or one felony, you automatically get deported. Well, if they clean your record every time you go to court, and there's one, they have a name, Perrier, like 169 traffic offenses in the last 3 years of that last name. And that last name is all Haitians. So something tells me that they didn't get vetted correct. Of course, we know they didn't get vetted correct. It sounded silly as I was speaking it. So let me retract that. We know they didn't vet none of them. So now these people are using the same name, even though none of them are probably related at all, because it's like dozens of people using that same last name, the Haitians, and all their traffic violations and all the times that they were charges dismissed. I'm going to dig deep into that, and I'll try to show that. I got to watch when I show these Facebook posts because I don't want the people who posted them, I don't want their names out there on the internet, so I have to watch how I do that. But I'll just show you just today, Haitians, they pile up in these SUVs and these vans, and they work through this temp service, diversity temp service, that was basically created to extort labor out of the Haitians. And the temp service also owns almost 70 properties in this town that they rent to Haitians only. But I mean, this is pictures, so I don't have to worry about a video buffing or anything like that. So, and I don't understand how their accidents. I've never seen so many rollover accidents ever in my life as much as I've seen since they started coming here through the temporary protective status. I mean, it's like I get an accident and the car just ends up on its top. I don't know how they do it. It's crazy. This one, they took down a telephone pole, so I know how the car got flipped over on this one. But let me pull it up and show you real quick. All right, so and these are Haitians coming home from work. Let me show you these. They took down the telephone pole. This is a daily occurrence here, people. And here's the Haitians that were in the vehicle. It's a daily occurrence. And then I've got one more. It's just the article where Pam Bondi is talking about it's a picture. I'll read it. So I won't have to worry about the video buffing. So it's another Facebook post. Oh, I lost it. Oh, that's not what I wanted to see here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. There we go. So Pam Bondi has confirmed that a foreign shell company has been funneling money to city mayors in return for migrant protection. Migrant protection. It says here, Pam Bondi confirms foreign. Okay, the same thing. Says the same thing. So DOJ is freezing all the assets of these corrupt mayors before trial. Now I'm telling you, our mayor is going to be involved in this. Guarantee it. But they need to go a little bit further. They're just talking about the mayors now, and maybe the mayors distributed the money locally to these other prosecutors, judges, the police chief, city manager, because all these people did cover ups for these Haitians to keep them from getting deported. So I know it's not really important news for the rest of the world or the country, but I feel like I need to start showing you guys what we go through on a daily basis in this town still. And a lot of them has left. So the quantities is not as much as they used to be, but the ones that stayed, I said it in my last live stream, the ones that stayed are the worst ones. Some of them stayed that have actual jobs, and some of them have already filed and are under a different status than the temporary protective status. Some of them actually got accepted as a refugee status. So some of those that are working are probably not, they're not going to get deported. But we have the gang. and there's not gangs. It's a gang, Haitian gang that controls. And people ask me, were they Haitian prostitutes? No, they're drug addicted local girls that they're prostituting. The drugs, we have a fentanyl problem coming from the Haitians. They've been having locals who are drug addicts, but not necessarily have a criminal record or anything, go into places like Rural King, purchase the guns, brings them out, and gives them to them out in the parking lot, so the Haitian gang members can take the guns back and stash them at these 2 locations. Now that's all allegedly. I have to say allegedly at this time because there's no official investigation. But ICE has been tipped off about that bunkhouse that is a central location for these illegal activities for this Haitian gang. And I've said it a lot on my live streams. This group of people is not going to go away quietly. We had 2 murders this week, and this is a small town. That's not something that happens. That's common, and especially 2 in one day. Allegedly, the Haitian gang was involved, but I haven't seen that, so I can't confirm that. But and I explained, people talk about, well, the crime rate in this town did not go up because the Haitians were here. In some cases, it actually went down. And no, the crime convictions has stayed the same or went down for violent crimes, but the crime reports of violent interactions has risen 337% in the last 3 years, or almost 3 years, a little over 2 years. So the reports have skyrocketed, but the arrests and convictions has not. Corruption, people. Corruption, corruption, corruption. Hopefully they'll come in here and hopefully they'll send some honest FBI agents in here and open up a little field office in this town and start doing some research and investigating, because plenty of locals will come out and show them what we all have found on our own and let them take it from there. Not let ICE do it. ICE is just supposed to come in and snatch them up and take them away. FBI needs to do the investigations against our politicians and our local law enforcement and judicial system. Hopefully something will happen. Dave, I'm sorry, I have to read I'm reading your comments, guys, on my phone, and I of course I have a hard time seeing, so. See here. Truly wish they would bring American customer service back to America. They also passed the law a few years ago, a few years, that you are not allowed to speak to an American representative. Why? You got something else on that, Dave? Do me a favor. You know how to contact me. Message me that. I want to see that, and we'll talk about that on a live stream. Saying that, I've been on here long enough tonight. It's late. I was on Killer Carl's live stream earlier. I was on Kim's Coffee Talk bright and early at 6:30 or 6:45 this morning. So I've been in front of this computer a lot today, and my butt is sore. But I'll be with Killer Carl tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, free for all Saturday, and then you'll catch me Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, on my regular live stream every Sunday at 7 p.m. I don't know if I'm going to have a guest this week. I haven't really thought about it too much. I may bring somebody in and we'll talk about something. But if I say it all the time, if any of you guys want to come on and talk in the live stream instead of being in the chat room, my email is in my bio. But if you can't find it, just put a comment in the video or the live stream that you're watching, and because I read all comments, because I get notified when somebody puts a comment in, so I'll go back and read it, and we'll figure out a way to get you a link to come in and get on the live stream. And you don't have to be on camera. You can leave your camera shut off and just be on mic, but have a conversation. Dave, you ought to do that, brother. You ought to, if you got the time this weekend, you ought to come on Sunday night. Yeah, Minnesota. Hey, I'm glad you stopped in. And Dave, I always appreciate you, brother. You know, I get a lot of my information from Dave there. He 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 gets into it. I don't know how he has the time because he's a busy dude. But he does a lot of research and has a lot of information, and I appreciate what he sends me. But saying that, Dave, get a hold of me if you want to come on Sunday night, and it don't have to be Sunday. You can come on another day, but we oughta, and you can stay off camera. And I know you're shy, and let's have a conversation on live stream instead of the chat room. And you pick the subject, and we'll talk about it. Something that's getting at you under your skin a little bit, something that might be irritating you. Let's talk about it. But I offer that to all you guys. Come on. I enjoy it when other people want to interact on live. So saying that, guys, one more time, I appreciate you stopping in. If you're not following me, follow me. Give me a thumbs up. As Carl says, I don't whore myself out enough to get more followers, because I have my followers. The numbers are not going up very fast, which is fine, because I'm a nobody, and it's hard to stop and check out a live stream of a nobody when there's so many people out there like Carl that's doing and killing it. But I hope to get to that someday, to have the followers that he has and get the message out there. So till next time, guys, my name's James. This is Empty Pockets Podcast. Y'all have a good night. I'm out of here.